Necromancer pig? That shit was dark. Going in there like that. Oh, brutal shit. Tell me, Kuno dies. You're gonna pick one out of his brain like that too? Kuno's gonna go out in a hail of bullets. Gonna look like a fucking porcupine.
Porta Rosa, a side alley of the Boogie Street Spearhead. A young man in his early 20s approaches patrol officer Emile Mullins and asks for a cigarette. As Officer Mullins reaches in his coat pocket for the pack of Astra he just purchased this morning, the man shoots him point blank in his chest. Breathless, the patrol officer collapses in the gutter. His right hand is grabbing the armor on his chest. The bullet didn't pierce it, but he can't breathe. On the pavement, the patter of the perpetrator's feet growing distant. Bleed, pig. Someone opens a window and says, but Emile cannot see who. His sight grows dim with pain.
Yeah. Kuno doesn't...
All around you, the hisses and chirps of locusts fill the musky air. The earthen floor of the shack has been shaped into mounds of mud, dotted with little holes for windows. Like skyscrapers, spires of dirt and sand rising. Accommodations for their insectoid inhabitants.
Well, detective, it appears you've solved the case of the locusts. For the missing locust case, which is a sub-case of the imaginary insect case. So at least that's going well. Yes, I feel we are nearing a real breakthrough. If anything, the presence of the locust points to the opposite. The phasmid did not take the bait from the traps. It was Kuno. The phasmid doesn't exist. But what do I know?
Use your powers of deduction. You knew the magic bug was nowhere near here. The phasmid is impairing your judgment.
I'll let you handle the Kuno side of things. You are doing just fine.
You missed a good show before. A kid came by and completely fucked the tree to pieces.
He fucked the tree up! Fucked it good! It was porno!
You need to act decisively. It's Kuno. Use Kuno words.
Shoot that shit at Kuno, pigonaut. Yeah. Kuno took the bugs. So what?
So it wasn't the phasmid. A wave of disappointment washes over you.
Yeah, well, Kuno's all you got, bitch. It's not Bugtown. It's the city of locusts. Locusts aren't just bug shit. They come out of the sky like a fucking shadow. Shit descends.
Stop!
Locusts coming down like a shadow. This must be the night city he mentioned when you asked him where he's been.
Yeah, Locust City. City of rage. City of lights.
There's a tug of war over the name of his fantastical city. It's almost too big for his imagination. The girl forces herself to watch again, the corners of her eyes twitching from discomfort.
Maybe I am.
Did he just say I? Kuno usually calls Kuno, Kuno.
Oh my god, Kuno! happens? Don't let him, Kuno.
Yo, fuck you, see? Kuno can be what Kuno wants to be. Kuno's his own man. Kuno's free. Kuno made himself into Kuno. Kuno can make himself into anything. Kuno can make himself into a pig if he wants. Kuno can make himself into a... Kuno doesn't give a shit.
Don't make yourself into a pig, Kuno. You'll have to take me away.
So that's what this is about. Without a word, she disappears entirely behind the fence. For once, the boy is lost for words. He turns completely red now, with splotches of white beginning to appear across his face. You've got him. Now convince him to leave the cryptozoologist's traps alone.
It don't mean anything. It's shit. Kuno just likes to focus. Kuno likes to concentrate on shit. Build shit when he's zipping hard. Fuck. Pig, you really shouldn't have fucked with Kuno City. Now it's all fucking lame. I don't give a shit. I don't need the locusts anyway. Shit is all lame now. C was right.
The girl's face appears again, above the fence, just long enough to make eye contact with Kuno. She doesn't know whether to be glad because Kuno is finally convinced of the lameness, or more worried because of his continued use of the first-person singular. Kuno is Kuno, not I.
The fuck are they trying to catch anyway? With the traps?
He recognizes the name.
Bitches think Kuno doesn't know shit. The fuck out of here. Kuno's tired of this shit.
There's silence between the two children. They're not saying anything to each other, nor looking in each other's direction. There it is again, that spectral smell haunting this industrial harbor. And it smells like years of turmoil, of hopes and dreams, ground beneath the inexorable tides of capital. Can you smell it now? No, actually. In fact, you can't smell much of anything. Perhaps your allergies are acting up. Nonsense. The reek of communism is unmistakable, and it's coming from that railing over there. Yes, now's your chance to establish contact.
Hola, Wandering Man. How can I help you now?
The encroaching doom is golden red. It is inside you, but also outside, on the horizon, by the water's edge, innermost but yet to happen. Things make sense from that angle. You're Tequila Sunset. You have always been Tequila Sunset. It has always been too late.
Boyadero!
You see his eyes turn teary with appreciation. He is extremely happy for you. You receive a good, strong handshake in return. He takes a swig from his flask, then offers you some.
And then we might go out together. Which sounds fun. But I guess I have a strike to watch. So, anything else you wanted to discuss, Boyadero? What's that, Boya?
Now's your chance. Remember, communists are notoriously skittish, so it's best to insinuate your way in.
Don't think I've ever met a Kras personally. Then again, I've never been to Krat. Could be coming from one of the jam lorries. Cargo's been sitting out for a while.
Okay, maybe it's time to abandon the subtle approach.
Ah, now I see. Can't say I'm surprised. You seem to take your communism seriously. Not a bad thing, mind you. It's good for a man to take time to think about the whole socio-political world picture.
Oh, he certainly likes to take his time with things, especially when politics are at issue.
So you've given up copying and now you're hunting comunistas. Care to say why? Oh, I see. I wish I could help. Unfortunately, I don't know many comunistas. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, I'm not institutional. A man's got to blaze his own trail, in my book.
Okay, so maybe he's not exactly a communist, but there's definitely some communistic residue about him.
Ah, but you know, I did meet a genuine ideologo a few months ago. Perhaps he's your guy. Didn't say anything about his name. Wasn't this sort of encounter where names matter? It was late one night as I was leaving the armor. He was waiting on the corner in a bright white jacket, classic Sarameritian style. He asked me for a light. We shared cigarettes. Then he asked me if I ever thought about getting into some of the extra physical branches of communism. The same thing I always tell people who try to press some claim on me. I said, every boyadero rides alone. I couldn't tell you. Once I declined his offer, we finished our cigarettes and he disappeared back into the night. Just before he melted into the shadows, he turned to me and said, "Remember Dobrava and Abadanais." And then he was gone. I don't know. Guess not everyone remembers. Been wondering about that myself. Some comunista inside talk could be. Not meant for the wider public. They love that kind of thing. You'd have to ask someone who knows this ideologo personally.
Not to interfere in your personal errand, but it might have something to do with that passphrase Cindy mentioned earlier. Of course you were, Detective. Apologies for interrupting.
Just in time, the faithful partner arrives with the key that turns the lock. You two make a good pair. I salute you, boyas, and wish you good fortune on this grand ideological quest.
The man whispers a jaunty tune. A coastal breeze ruffles his hair.
Yeah, the janitor who gave me the key to his apartment said the guy's a bit of an asshole. Like I said before, I don't know much about this weasel, but the bossman said he's a real piece of work. Thanks for helping out, friend.
The cover of this tattered paperback features the man behind him rise the harsh snow. The back blurb below, a brazen attempt to bilk fans for more. Their main concern is the continuation of the franchise. The story opens by nightfall. Only the man from Eomdal and his blood brother, Noble Tiribol, it is and with deadly finesse. A few chapters. This book makes a mock the Northmen. The man from Heimdall extracts. What do you mean? Because the flame of justice. But what do you mean? He doesn't even have a real name. What is inside this man? He is the wildest man alive. The only mortal strong enough to. What are you? A book critic? You skip past a section detailing an elaborate in the scent as the vile ceremony ends. Swiftly, the visitors toss in an instant. Oh, for fuck's sake! When the din of battle settles, only the man from Heimdall and Tyr. He probably is, but you can't be sure. Because this one ends in a cliffhanger and a footnote saying, considering the man from here. The edges of the page, the jacket copy, he is ambushed. You open the book, his arms, good God, you flip to the copyright page. This berserker rage, man from here, the steel muscles of a passage reads, thine spells are no, I have this is beyond primitive. In the final pages, man from Hyundai mounts to find out what happens next. You medicinal purposes of the flipping through the book, you come across it's all finally. It seems to contain descriptions of there are a number of CO-like tonics that promise what you're describing is there's nothing in here that's first. You need to choose. Next, you'll need to combine the basing. Lastly, is there anything else? This tastes so bad, it can only be good for you. According to the pharmacopoeia, would you like to try again? Very well. First, next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient. Lastly, is there anything else? The tincture you've invented sounds intriguing, but its medicinal value is suspect, to say the least. Safe to say it won't cure your hangover. Would you like to try again? You close the book and find yourself staring at the familiar cover once more. As you approach the metal grill, you can hear several voices having what appears to be an animated discussion. This must be it. Beyond this door lies the beating heart of radical communism in Martinez. Somehow, the night air softens the smell of trash and sea brine. As the breeze pulls through the canvas like a shuttle through a loom, you catch a hint of something unexpected, something earthy, warm, and burnt. The acrid smell of failure. No, that's just slightly burnt coffee. A smell you would recognize anywhere.
Just look at these pigs sniffing about after hours. Must have slipped my mind. You know how it goes.
The metal grill is cool to the touch. You notice the lieutenant is looking uncustomarily anxious. His posture is rigid. His right hand hovers near the zipper of his jacket.
Something's not right here. The equation doesn't quite balance. Which is just to say, we should be prepared for any eventuality.
You can make out at least two separate voices. The voices are male, you think. Beyond that, you can't tell. The clang of metal reverberates all along the scaffolding. The voices coming from the other side fall silent.
Who's there? Is that you, Maurice? Who said communist? Did we say communist? Get out of here.
For a moment, silence.
What's the passphrase?
There's no response. You begin to wonder whether they've slipped out some back way. No, they're still there. You can feel them back there.
All right. The key's taped to the back of the door frame. Just make sure you put it back when you're done, or we'll all be locked out. And do watch the concrete. It just kind of falls away, in places.
Charmant. After you, detective.
Have fun at your underground meeting, pig. Hope it's a blast.
The two young men are either oblivious to or ignoring your entrance. Their attentions are fixed on whatever it is they're stacking in the middle of the floor. Matchboxes, it appears.
I think it's holding, Alexis.
It is. It's holding.
It's definitely not holding. Those matchboxes are stacked so haphazardly, it's like they want them to collapse.
Careful, careful. Damn, hardly any difference. You two, you are late.
They should know the meeting starts at 10 p.m. sharp.
There's a great deal of tension in this young man's shoulders, more than someone his age should bear. Meanwhile, his companion inclines toward him, eager to catch every word that dribbles from his friend's mouth. Don't let them see you flustered, sire. Play along.
That's the whole point, of course. We can't just have anybody waltzing in here. Martinez is crawling with reactionary infiltrators. There are RCM spies, for one. Just recently, someone even broke into my apartment, if you can believe it. To say nothing of Gotwaldians and iconoclasts.
The young man's companion reflexively snorts at the mention of Gotwaldians and iconoclasts.
We all have to take precautions, especially during these delicate times. What matters is that you've made it, and that you've done the reading.
Uh-oh. No one said anything about reading. You'll just have to wing this one.
Well, this is getting awkward. I'm not sure what you're expecting to find here then.
There's profound consternation in his voice. You suspect it's about something bigger than your not having done the reading.
Maybe they can explain themselves.
The young man frowns at the little pile of boxes on the floor.
Nothing, just messing around until the meeting started.
They're watching those matchboxes awfully intently for two guys who are just messing around. It's almost as though they were trying to create the most unstable structure they could, with predictable results.
In the most general sense, I would say we're cultivating revolutionary consciousness.
Yes, that's probably the best way to describe it.
But more specifically, we are running a reading group. The most rigorous and theoretically advanced materialist reading group in Martinez.
Comrade Steban is a great discussion leader, one of the best at the university.
It's obvious they take this group of theirs extremely seriously. Whatever you do, don't compare it to a common book club.
That's our whole thing. The world is so shallow, all noise and repetition. We're interested in genuinely radical critique.
Precisely. We are not interested in senseless parroting. We like to read critically.
Within the contours of Mazovian historical materialism, of course. We study all the foundational texts of Mazovian theory, of course. Just last week we finished the second volume of Puncher and Watman's Innocence of Capital.
Truly extraordinary.
And before that we spent 6 weeks on State and Plasm.
Uh-oh. You can feel your attention span rapidly deteriorating.
We've also read Wertmüller's The Megastructure of History, and before that, Real and Reality.
Communist theorists love puns, in case that wasn't obvious.
Ablars une pain infernale.
The original Fizdale translation, not that watered-down revisionist garbage.
These two deserve the Order of Honor for bullshitting. There's no way they've actually read all this stuff.
Obviously.
But, of course, our special emphasis is on the theories of Ignaz Nilsson and his followers, especially the inframaterialists. You're not familiar with him? It's pretty advanced stuff. You may not be ready for it yet, gendarme.
Only Krasmazov's most trusted lieutenant, the evangelist of the revolution, and the founding father of the People's Republic of Samara.
It's hard to overstate how unimpressed he is that you've never heard of this world historical individual.
He also happens to be the greatest communist theorist after Mazov himself. It was Nielsen who first postulated the existence of ideological plasm, which forms the basis of inframaterialist theory.
The young man sighs. His companion looks about furtively.
What do you mean? This is the reading group. We're in something of a rebuilding phase.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the ideological fortitude our work demands.
Intellectual attrition is maybe the best way to describe it. Felix said he couldn't keep up with the reading on top of his classwork. And Susanna wanted to read text other than Mazovian theory. Like novels, if you can believe it.
Imagine the audacity of wanting to read a novel in a reading group.
Oh, sure. But you can always join a book club if that's what you're into. We've tried recruiting new members, but unfortunately the current intellectual climate is pretty hostile to inframaterialist thought. These days, if you're on the left, the ascendant schools are the Godwaldians and their iconoclasts.
Don't forget about Maurice and the turnips.
Right. Then there was the whole turnip debacle.
Whatever this turnip business is about, one thing is perfectly clear. These young students have a much deeper understanding of communism than you do. You could learn a thing or two from them. If you can convince them you're one of them.
It's an unfortunate story. You see, our ex-comrade Maurice is something of an economist.
He's studying macro and microeconomics.
Wow, a real intellectual, it sounds like.
Right. So a few weeks ago we were discussing the extra physical capabilities of the revolutionary state. And Maurice said, what were his exact words, Ulysses?
It was unbelievable. He said, turnips don't care if they are grown by communists, moralists, or Vulcan. They grow just the same.
Just a minute. Steban, Ulysses. Why do those names ring the faintest of bells? Probably because they're the real names of Nazteb and Exilus, the authors of that so-called essay about Tip-Top Tournay you read in La Fumée. You should get to the bottom of this when you have the chance.
Basically, he was rejecting the whole foundation of inframaterialist theory.
What is this inframaterialist business they keep blathering about? You've never heard of anything like it.
Simply that under suitably revolutionary conditions, crop yields naturally increase relative to non-revolutionary crops, which Morris somehow has the gall to deny.
Susanna said that he has been hanging out with some non-communists lately.
For us, the question boiled down to, if you don't even accept the basic ideas of Nielsen and inframaterialist theory, why are you in the reading group? Well, it wasn't so much that he was expelled.
He just quit coming. We haven't seen him around for weeks.
Cindy is... how to describe her role?
Something of an ideological auxiliary, perhaps.
Yes, that's exactly how I would put it. And naturally, we support her radical counter-liberal aesthetics.
But she refuses to submit an essay, so we can't call her a member of the group per se.
That doesn't stop her from using the room for studio space, of course. They're the most depressing school of communism. They love writing long books with a patina of Mazovian theory to cover up their cheap psychologizing.
A gang of cheap psychologists and intellectual midgets. Typical Gottwalders, in other words.
It's okay for Uli to say that, because his dad is from Gottwald. The Gottwald school believe that intellectuals as a class are incapable of sparking revolutionary change. So all they can do is critique capitalism from inside itself.
In other words, they have lost faith in their own relevance.
That's why they spend all their time smoking cigarettes and writing long works of criticism that make you want to commit suicide. It is miserable. That's probably why they're always committing suicide. You see, the Gottwald school look like communists. They talk like communists. But scratch the patina and you'll see beneath that they're just depressed liberals who've read too many books. For starters, they love talking about beans. Oh, sure. But the iconoclasts are obsessed with beans. They love thinking about beans. They love counting beans. But most of all, they love building models to predict how many beans there'll be in the future.
Nota bene, iconoclast is an extra pejorative form of the already pejorative name Mazovian economists, a moderate school of Mazovianism which advocates the gradual transition to communism through carefully managed economic modernization rather than violent social revolution.
They're by far the most bean-centric school of communism.
Ah yes, the much maligned bean counters, ensconced in their think tanks and high-rises, believing they can save the world through a series of incremental, assiduously technocratic reforms.
If only. They've got all the beans accounted for in their asset sheets, their quarterly budgets, their future projections. But for some reason, there are never enough beans to go around. So we've just got to cut our bean rations in half.
The next thing you know, there are budget cuts. So now we've got to cut the bean rations in half again. You see, iconoclasts claim to be communists, but in reality they're just liberals with hard-ons for spreadsheets. Of course not. The only people who actually call themselves liberals are mouth-foaming reactionaries.
Basically indistinguishable from fascists. You'd need an X-ray machine to tell the difference.
Go ahead. I don't think so. Unless you've been hanging around the cultural studies faculty at the École Normale des Recherches.
Perhaps he subscribes to La Fumée.
That's sarcasm. He does not expect you to subscribe to radical communist periodicals.
You've read our article.
That I did not expect.
Well, don't keep us on tenterhooks. What did you think of the essay?
The delicate egos on these boys. Even though you're just some cop, they're desperate for your approval. Hey, you're not just some cop. You've got highly developed critical faculties. Now's your chance to show them off.
Well, of course that's just an initial foray into the subject. We're hoping to return to it for a more substantial treatment next term. In any case, I'm glad our piece found its audience. That's always the hope with these things, you know. We typically only accept new members once per semester. There's this whole process with essays and presentations on assigned topics. But given that we have some extra seating at the moment, I guess we could be convinced to expedite an application or two.
Steban, you can't be serious. For these gendarmes?
I am serious. As materialists, we've got to adapt to conditions as they are. Besides, he'll still need to pass the interview portion of the entrance process. Assuming he's even still interested, that is.
Is it getting warm in here? There seems to be a little pool of sweat forming in the depression of your lower back. Oh, totally. A superstar breaking out in a cold sweat. No, you're terrible at them. The thought of everyone looking at you, judging you, makes you want to heave, frankly. Let's be frank. They're probably way smarter than you. You bet they've read more books than you can even name. You've been quite studious these past few days. You should be able to handle whatever they want to throw your way. The hardest part will just be working up the nerve to ask without soiling yourself.
Everything all right, gendarme? You look a little green about the gills. Sure.
Sleep well.
You know, if you wanted to borrow my jacket, you could have just asked. But no matter. What's on your mind?
What's there to be scared of? You've really been cracking the books these last few days. You can go toe to intellectual toe with any reading group in Martinez. You've spent a not inconsiderable amount of time arranging the works in your mental library by theme and period. All the ideas and references you'll need are ready at hand. Now, chin up. You've got this.
Oh, you want to start now? Sure, we can manage that.
You've caught him off balance. The momentum is already in your favor.
Go ahead and take a seat. Since we haven't had time to prepare an exhaustive questionnaire, I think we can keep this interview more freeform. Why don't you tell us a bit about the books you're interested in, and we'll just see where the conversation goes.
We prefer difficult books. Books that might destroy you if you don't destroy them first.
That's enough, Uli. It's the gendarme's opinions we are interested in. But to Comrade Ulix's point, isn't there value in reading really difficult books, just for the sheer challenge of it? Wait, you play Wirral?
And just like that, all trace of irony drains from his voice. This is a good start. They're starting to loosen up. You feel relaxed and in control. Soon, you're all animatedly debating the political subtext of character creation. Come on, let's really impress them. Overturn the race-class paradigm. The more esoteric, the better.
I'm just saying it's heavily implied that Welkin are the bourgeois of the Wirral setting. That's a fair point. Personally, I never understood the point of picking a human in the Wirral setting. But to each their own.
Completely counter to the spirit of Wirral. What's even the point?
These kids are eating out of your hand, practically. Another quarter of an hour disappears. The questions come rapid fire, but you have an answer for every one. Now you can sense things starting to slow down. The interview must be reaching an inflection point.
But now I'm curious. Do you think there's value in reading so-called practical non-fiction? Okay, we'll bite. What sort of stories are we talking about?
A real-life procedural, complete with gory details. How about a tale of adventure, intrigue, and daring do?
Sounds like old-fashioned revolutionary espionage. Let's see where this goes.
Yes, I'm rather curious myself.
Now you're getting somewhere. These boys aren't even bothering to contain their interest. They want to see how you weave the threads of this story together. Even the lieutenant seems engrossed, despite your revealing details of an RCM investigation.
But I still don't see what the lady driver had to do with a strike standoff.
In all fairness, the whole situation is rather complicated.
Clearly there's a lot of ins and outs. It almost reminds me of a Dick Mullen novel.
Another quarter of an hour disappears. The conversation bounces back and forth. Whatever their pretensions, it's clear these two have been craving something real. Now you can sense things starting to slow down. Time to wrap this tale up.
Makes sense. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere else she could have gone. I suppose we'll have to leave it there. But listen, gendarme. We could use someone with your breadth of expertise. With just a little more theoretical background, I think you'll be able to make some real contributions.
Yes, I would say he's got serious potential at least.
Besides, it's inconceivable that we turn down a fellow Viral enthusiast. And with that, welcome to the most ideologically advanced materialist reading group in Martinez. Here's your first assignment. It's an overview of inframaterialist theory. A little basic, as you'll see, but one has to start somewhere. You're going to fit right in, I think. Come back when you're done. We'll be here pretty much every night after 10 p.m. Do be sure to take your time with the reading. We'll be eager to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's hers. She just sort of moved it all in a few months ago.
She said if she's going to make truly radical art, she needs a suitably radical workspace.
And I don't think she could afford rent at an actual studio.
Oh, sure. It's definitely interesting, I would say.
I guess you could call her latest stuff a sort of counter-bourgeoisie calligraphy.
She's got a real taste for radical slogans.
It's too bad she hasn't developed the theoretical foundation to do truly radical work.
I think she'll get there, though. She's still looking for a subject equal to her ambitions. The deal, at a fundamental level, I guess you could call it the shattered bones of a dream crushed by capital.
A feeble and hopelessly mixed metaphor.
That's really good, Steban. You should save that for an essay.
Thanks, Uli. When the idea is sound, the words just sort of flow.
Yes, now keep developing the idea.
That could be. It would explain some of the more ornate detailing. But we're speaking in world historical terms here. What his place represents, not what it merely was.
His friend yawns, evidently bored by literal reality.
The deal?
A feeble...
That's really good.
Thanks, Uli.
Yes, now keep developing the idea.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not as good as Steban's original idea, though.
Go ahead.